Again, the same idea, but now we've got parabolas. So these ones don't look like what we normally have with square root graphs. These graphs will look different than what we've had before. So here we have a parabola. Again, we start the same way. We find our invariant points. Where are the y values equal to 0? Where are the y values equal to 1? So here where my y values are 0, again I go across to my graph on 1, and I mark where the y values are equal to 1. They give us some other points. They give us some points where y is equal to 5. Does anyone know the square root of 5? Mental math? 2 point something. So that's close enough. So if you do 2 point something, that's close enough. Anywhere between 2 and 3 would be fine. In actuality, it is 2.36. New value to memorize, square root of 5, 2.36. And so now we do the same thing. Wherever the graph was between 0 and 1, this part's going to be slightly above. Just a tiny little bit. Doesn't have to be much. And then after that, it's going to be below. To give a sense of what it's going to look like, this graph eventually, if you think, what is the square root of an x squared graph going to look like? If I took the square root of x squared, I get x. So the curve of this graph eventually will become like a straight line, like x. If you had an x cubed graph, it'll eventually curve like a parabola. Because the bigger the numbers you get, the closer and closer it'll get to just that line. Same thing here. We've got 0 and 0 there. We've got 1 and 1 here. The highest this goes is 9. What is the square root of 9? 3. So this part's above, this part's below, and that's what that graph would look like in part B. Domain and range. The domain of this one, it comes in 2 parts. And I'll show you how you can write that in both in both notations. First, you could say, well, if I use the notation with greater than and equal signs and less than and equal signs, it has to be less than or equal to 1. And then it has another section where x is bigger than or equal to 5. And the important thing is the word in between is you use the word or. It can be less than or equal to 1, or it can be bigger than or equal to 5. You have to not use the word and, because then x has to be both at the same time. And it's very hard to be less than 1 and greater than 5 at the same time. So you have to use the word or. In the other notation, you would say, coming from the left, I start at negative infinity, I go to 1, I include 1, and then the symbol in the other one for or is this u. And I remember it sort of if I think of the word ur, because it's kind of like or, ur. The symbol for and looks like this, which looks very close to an A if you drew a line through it, but you don't draw the line through it. So this is ur, and then you start at 5 again and go to infinity. So that's how you do it with a section broken up. And again, the y values are greater than or equal to 0. The second one, the domain is x is between 0 and 3. You could write it like that, or you could write it like that. And our range, oh, sorry, that was my range. Oh, wait for it. There we go. Cheating, I know. Sorry. The domain goes from -3 to +3. and the range goes from 0 to 3. Question you can do for this one is number 8.